And hello, everybody. Welcome to United Opposition. I'm Marshall, and it looks like I'm alone, but I'm actually not. We got Mike here as well as Scott, and they're going to be on in just a minute. But today's topic is what's going to happen after the election. So we're going to talk about why we have a weird setup today for the show, and then we're going to talk about what's going to happen after November 5th. Hit it. All right, here we are, and here's Scott. Hey, Scott, how's it going, man?
How's it going? You guys hear me okay?
We hear you just fine.
Excellent. I am not where I normally am. I am out of town for an event for the film festival that we do for the Christian Youth Film Festival. We're doing one over in near Tampa Bay in Florida. So I'm in Florida right now.
What's up, Scott? Glad to have you here remotely.
Yeah, I literally just walked to the hotel room, got Wi-Fi. I'm like, here we go.
And here we go. We got Mike Harvey. We finally got him to come out from behind the keyboard and appear on the screen. So here
I am pumped to be joining. I've done this show with Scott once or twice. I'm actually really excited to do it with you, Marshall.
You got it, man. All right. I'm coming for you.
Is that the bull by the horns or is that the devil?
That was Kamala.
Either way.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about what happens after the election.
What happens after November 5th is I'll be 50 years old. I turn 50 on the 4th. So.
Oh, my gosh.
I think after November 5th, we're going to all be celebrating Trump's victory.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you think that Trump is going to win? I think that's the $10,000 question. Why do you think he's going to win?
Well, I think many of the polls show him being ahead. I think that many people are waking up to the. I'm going to try to word this carefully because I know you're of a different opinion, Marshall, and I want to be respectful of your show. Many people that I know are even people that were former Democrats, liberals, are red pilling themselves, waking up to the free thinking and other things that we consider our side to have embraced.
Okay. Scott, what's your take on it?
Honestly, I'm not allowing myself to be hopeful. I'm always let down when I really actually want to hope for something to go the way that I hope it does. I usually the best example is I hate it when the 49ers get all the way to the Super Bowl because I just know they're going to let me down.
Every time, don't they?
Every time. I'm just so tired of them going there, and so I don't want to be hopeful. I am so I don't believe in the ability for the American people to see the truth, and so I really just think that so many people are just going to be like, "Yay, Kamala, yeah!" and I just. I'm almost depressed about it.
I would add to that if I can, Marshall. I think that historically we've seen conservatives do have a interesting way of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. So
it's not going to stop me from voting, but I'm just saying I don't. Living in California, I was about to say here in California. I'm not actually in California right now, but living in California, it feels like a lot of times a conservative vote is worthless. But I mean, I really don't want the country to go down the direction of Kamala Harris, but I don't know if I'm hopeful enough to say, yeah, it's definitely going to be Trump in the White House.
Well, I'll address the topic you raised, the point you raised about your vote not mattering because you're in California. You're 100% true, and it's great. No, I'm kidding. Even if you vote in a minority, and all of the state's electors go to the candidate that you don't prefer, your vote still matters because it communicates a message. It can withhold an apparent mandate. It can withhold a majority from a particular candidate. So even if a candidate wins the electoral vote, they might not win the raw majority of voters and things like that. So you're still communicating a message. You're still having your voice heard. It still counts for something, even though the contest is decided based on the electors. So I would encourage
And it's never going to
people-
stop me.
Yeah,
It's never going to stop me
Right.
from voting.
And
Right.
and I also think it's important to add to that. Reality is all politics are local, and so while your vote in California as a conservative doesn't count for much on a national level, your vote as a conservative does carry weight on a local level, and it's
Yes, it does.
important in that regard.
who you elect to, city council and things like that. That's actually where the real power is.
Yes.
Believe it or not, that's where you determine whether or not potholes get repaired, or if new housing developments are started. Taxes,
What goes
for
into the
schools
school.
and other things, property taxes, and all of these things are decided at that local level. So even if you have little or no interest, or you've given up all hope on the national election, at least turn up for that local election, because that's how you
always.
get to decide how you want to live in your community, and I think that's an important vote. Now, getting to the national side of things, I do think Kamala Harris is going to win, at least at this point. Now, it's not over till it's over. We got 6 weeks or 7 weeks or whatever to go still, and a lot could happen. But, somebody took another shot at Trump this weekend. And I have no reason to believe that it was staged, as some people are insinuating. But I also think nobody cares. It's like, okay, whatever. I have the feeling that Trump has essentially thrown in the towel. I don't see him actively campaigning that much. He's out playing golf. I think he's been kind of cracking up and breaking up, especially since Harris came in. And I think the last debate, while I think he did better, at least towards his base, I think his base thinks he did great during the debate. I don't think he did well at all, but I do think I could see that some people think, oh yeah, he crushed it. I think it's kind of a done deal. And when you throw in the women's rights angle and other things on that, I think it's a done deal. But it would be foolish of me to say that it really is a done deal. It's not. Just my opinion as of right now. I think most of the polls show Harris in the lead, and she also has an advantage on the electoral college count so far. It's a slim lead, but if you look at the battleground states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, those are all now leaning towards Harris. And I think also North Carolina, I think, was another one which surprised me. And if those go for Harris, it's a done deal before it gets to, Nevada and Arizona and some of these other states out there. But anyway.
Mike, what are you thinking about? Again, the two of you, I'm pointing to the screens, the two of you guys that above me here, you guys seem to have solid opinions. I can't even venture to guess who's going to be. But Mike, why do you think that it's going to be Trump? What do you see in the polls that's different than what Marshall sees?
Well, I think that, first of all, polls are a bunch of crap. Like, I don't believe a lot in polls anyway, but the polls are pretty split. Like, there's polls saying Kamala's going to win. There's polls saying that evil is going to be defeated. But how to take a jab, Marshall. But the reality is, it's all about voter sentiment at the end of the day. And I think there's a lot of people that are not. I wish I could pull that up for you, Marshall, but I cannot. There's a lot of people that are waking up and realizing what reality is. And I disagree with you, Marshall. I've seen Trump very active. I've seen Vance very active. I've personally been to many of those events, and I know they're doing stuff every single day. I'm sure that if I was to guess, and you can welcome to correct me, I would imagine if you watch any news, which you may not, it's CNN, MSNBC. They're not going to be reporting the stuff on Trump. They're going to minimize as much as possible. They're going to rally their base, which is, all of the Democrat liberal voters. And the other thing is they want to keep the Dems as positive and optimistic as possible because they don't want them to go into defeat and not go to the polls, and really it's all about voter turnout at the end of the day. And I know that I'm very involved with multiple organizations that have a very solid ground game, and they're out there on the get out the vote effort in full force with many hundreds and thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
get out the vote is a big deal, and I agree with you on there that whichever side gets people to show up to the polls is actually probably gonna win, which also then depresses me because you have most of the mainstream media, most of media that's out there. Most of culture is trying to discourage the conservative side from going to vote.
Mm-hmm. Let's say Trump loses, okay, just for the sake of argument. What happens? Do conservatives pack it in and go home?
Yep.
Do we see some sort of an insurrection movement? Is it just, it's just going to be another Wednesday the day after? What happens if Trump loses? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that are, the resistance becomes stronger. The pushback on the crazy policies, what we consider crazy policies, to stop that effort gets changed. We stay on the offense. We stay on the offensive, and not only as politicians, but also as conservative media, which 511 is. We stay on the offensive, and really we try to minimize the collateral damage from the tax increases and everything else as business owners.
Mm-hmm. What do you think happens, Scott?
The prediction on this side, if Trump loses, I think conservatives will just continue going to work. I don't think there's not going to be a riot or insurrection. There's not going to be mass rioting across the country. Nothing like that. It's just, conservatives are too busy and too responsible to do stupid stuff like that. Like we have too much to lose. We have families, we have businesses, we have, we pay our taxes. We got things to do. We're productive to society, and we're going to continue being productive until the government shuts us down, which is basically what it's going to be.
How do you explain January 6th if that was a subset of conservatives?
One subset of conservatives, one day. Yeah,
well, it's a pretty big day.
So Marshall, define your vantage point of January 6th, because there's a lot of misinformation about January 6th.
A lot of misinformation.
Well, obviously,
how many people went into the Capitol building?
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are, but what I do know is that thousands of hardcore Trump supporters descended on the Capitol to essentially rally behind Trump, to argue that the election was being stolen or whatever. And there was a portion of that group that essentially became lawless. And there was unfortunately some violence, and I think a person died.
Did they break in?
I'm sorry, Mark, I'm going to fact check.
No, they were let in.
They were convicted of breaking into congressional offices and stealing things.
The only person that died,
photographs of them doing that,
a rogue Capitol police officer. So
the police officer's been cleared, and the people have gone to prison over what they did on January 6th. You can't escape that; those are facts.
I'm not going to deny that people were falsely imprisoned. I agree with you on that.
Oh, well. Yeah. They were charged and tried by a jury of their peers and convicted. So that's how the game is played.
Because we always know that's all legit every time.
Well, it was remarkably consistent for the dozens of people who were locked up. But okay.
Oh, dozens. Yeah. Gosh, compare that to cities set on fire.
My point is you're making a generalization
if Trump wins,
conservatives are
cities are going to be set on fire.
Well, that's a possibility.
That's
You
the
know,
that's
so
the
so let's
difference.
take a look
That's
at
the
the other
difference
side of this,
between
right? Let's say
conservatives
Trump
and
does
liberals.
win. Well, again, it
We've seen
depends
it.
on how people perceive the threat of a Trump administration. If they perceive that he is going to strip additional rights away from women in their
Which he doesn't
perception,
do.
regardless of how you feel about the issue, if people perceive it, because perception is what defines reality for individuals. And if enough people have that perception, then they will act out. So I would not rule out the possibility of some sort of leftist activity. You know, there's already been two assassination attempts on Donald Trump. The politics and motives of those individuals are not entirely clear. They seem to simply be unhinged persons,
Or
maybe
hidden.
seeking what's that?
Or hidden, not going reported.
What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean. We don't know their
Meaning that
motivations other than they appear to be crazed individuals.
maybe they're not investigating highly enough.
Well, I think we're getting into conspiracy talk here.
I
I would imagine
I
that
don't wish to identify as a conspiracy theorist. I just wish to identify as being correct. I want to
Well,
identify as
we
I
do
told
know
you
that
so.
you want
Not
to
a
be
conspiracy
correct,
theorist, as I told you
you
so.
gotta go with facts.
We do
And-
know that the most recent suspect donated to liberal politicians in the last two elections, and that he was being employed by a Ukrainian organization as a recruiter.
Okay, well, there you go. And that could hint at a possible motive. So I'm not going to say that, these people aren't influenced by leftist politics. They may very well be. We're just not sure. We don't have a smoking gun per se. But I would not put it past somebody to attempt.
But anybody who had right-leaning politics that attempted something like this, it would absolutely, in all of the media, be described as the right is promoting this.
Yeah, I
Anybody
think
who's
so.
left-leaning,
Sure.
nobody says it's the left promoting this. I'm frustrated by just dishonesty.
We have
Dishonesty in the
to
media. And I
look
don't-
at the facts, though. We have to look at the facts that the investigations uncover. Again, if you have a person who has contact with, Ukrainian organizations, who's donating to left-leaning organizations, as Mike pointed out, you can draw a factual conclusion from that. This person is probably inspired by that side of the political spectrum. And I think there would be more of that. There would be more and more competent and serious attempts on the life of Trump if he were to win the election, if people on the left perceive that he poses a real and present danger to the freedoms that we have.
Because they've been lied to about him. They've been
Well,
lied to by the media about who he is and what he represents.
But he was
And
president for 4 years. They saw what he did to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is absolutely crushing and killing and preventing virtually every attempt at democratic reform and left-leaning reform policies that are popular with the politician, with the public. But the general public is opposed to that. They don't like the makeup of the Supreme Court and the decisions that they continue to hand down, because it's crushing it's crushing the little guy, and Democrats, I don't know that I trust them to do much about it, because I think Democrats and Republicans are simply two sides of the same dirty penny.
I have hope. I have hope for my future because of the layout of the Supreme Court. I have hope for my freedoms in the future because of the layout. I got exactly what I wanted out of Trump's presidency. The Supreme Court.
Well, I don't know what freedoms a person enjoys if they have no social safety net. If they have a diminished voice and rights in the workplace, let's say, things like that. And these are the kinds of decisions that we see coming out of this court. And that's very concerning. And, again, I don't condone leftist militantism, I don't condone assassination attempts, things like that, or the assassination of the president.
Here comes the but.
I don't condone any of those things. However, there are going to be people who I think will act out of frustration. desperation and frustration breeds that sort of activity. So,
And yet, if Harris wins, you won't see that, because I hate to say it, people on the conservative side and on the right were civilized.
well, so we pray, but January 6th is again a factual occurrence that
Okay,
actually
but Marshall, regardless of
Nothing.
that stands in contrast to your claim.
about,
Nothing.
no. Regardless of how you feel about January 6th, January 6th was not Minneapolis in the Summer of Love. There's a massive difference between the
It
two.
was not Minneapolis. It was not Portland. It wasn't name your major
Mhm.
city. It wasn't
Right.
any of that.
Right. That was the Occupy movement
not a
and the Black
comparison.
Lives Matter movement, and those
Which are both
yeah,
leftist movements.
yes, they are. Yes,
Not
they
even
are.
a comparison.
And there is a tremendous undercurrent of frustration and concern and anger that will well up if it is tapped into. And I am concerned that if this country leads too far to the right, we will see that reaction. Just as Mike mentioned that if the left wins, if Harris wins, there will be a conservative reaction because that's just how people operate. If the right
But people aren't
takes this
afraid of their
election, the left
lives. People aren't afraid for their lives when there's a conservative reaction. People are in fear of their lives when there's a leftist reaction.
Oh, I don't know about that. Black Lives Matter was literally inspired by fear of lives, fear of danger, mortal danger. So,
There's a lot more below the surface of Black Lives Matter, and most of it was a giant grift.
well, again, the motivation for the average protester who turned out for that was absolutely the idea that Black lives don't matter. And
Which was
I
Which
think
is a
that
lie.
qualifies by
Which is
definition.
gaslighting and propaganda from the
already
left
a lie.
media.
But it's not propaganda when you see people who are being killed on the basis of race.
But
you
that's
know?
not what's happening. That's the lie. That is the lie. The actual statistics show that you are more likely, even by percentage and per capita, you are more likely to be killed by a police officer if you're white than if you're black. It is an absolute lie. That entire movement was based, hands up, don't shoot, was a lie. The entire movement was all based on lies. The
And
left
let's take a
bases
look at
everything on
incarceration
lies.
rates. Let's take a look at sentencing and all of these other things.
Take a look at
You know?
criminal activity as well.
Yeah.
It's
And
based on
again,
lies.
why does all of this happen? Again, it's because of our national heritage of racism and hatred, segregation,
Because
redlining,
it's because
things
people
like
in the
that.
media are trying to separate us, trying to put us
Well,
fighting each
maybe-
other, and it's all based on lies. It is propaganda. It's propaganda
Maybe.
and lies, and I'm
And
tired of it.
who's pulling the levers of the media? The
The
billionaires.
left.
Yeah.
The left.
The billionaires are.
And they would which is all the leftists, but they would love to tell you that me, because I'm a white male Christian, is the most hated or hateful, most bigoted, most racist person there is. Yet I have far more minority friends than I do white friends. And Marshall, I think you've seen that in our conversations. Regardless of the fact that we disagree on many topics. I think we've always been very civil and frankly friendly to each other. And I think, by the way, I want to underline and highlight the fact that that is the entire point of the show also, so that we can have a conversation, right, and still remain friends.
Mhm.
But even that is getting more into the emotional side of like, well, I have these friends. The fact of the matter is that people on the right, conservatives and people on the right, we don't place the value of a person on their skin color. We don't look and say, are they black? Are they white? Are they Hispanic? Before I find out if I like them, and before I find out if I want to agree with them, before what color is their skin? We don't do that. People on the right don't do that. Who are you? Who are you? Okay, let's talk to you. People on the left, the first thing they think of, what's your skin color? That's the first question they want to ask. What? And it's so ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm not usually this fired up on this. I'm tired of lies. I'm tired of propaganda. I'm tired of, and the fact that more than likely, I'm a little depressed about the election. More than likely, the side that I'm not voting for is probably going to win because they're the best at lying to the American people. They're the best at lying and deceiving the American people and putting that hook in their nose and dragging them where they want to go. And it's frustrating that's probably why Trump is going to lose, because the American media is so good at lying to the American people. It's just what it is.
Well, I think there are a couple things that we can agree on. One is that lying is bad, and we don't like the idea that the media, whether it's right, left, center, billionaire or not, lying to people. We don't like that. And I think the second thing that we can agree upon is that we don't condone violence, whether regardless of who wins. Nobody wants to see somebody gunning for the president or a candidate or anything like that. That's not how we want to see this nation run.
No,
So-
nobody ever has the right to take violent action against someone else's words or ideology, ever. Do we all agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I would make an exception for fascism because fascism is inherently violent. And I could also argue that capitalism is inherently violent, but capitalism is not as virulent as fascism is. Fascism is it's that one ideology that cannot be abided or tolerated under any circumstances.
So two out of
Capitalism
three
you
of
can
us,
work
two
with.
out of three of us agree that violence is never an option.
Yeah, because the fascists will employ violence as soon as they are
Then
in power.
you fight them when they do. You don't fight them before they do. This is not
No,
Minority
you
Report.
have
This is
to
not. This is not.
you nip it in
We've
the
talked
bud.
about this before. We talked about this before. That Marshall is the head of the Office of Pre-Crime, where he'll
Yeah.
go after you if he thinks you're going to commit a crime.
I think that fascism is the one intolerable ideology. Cannot be tolerated in any capacity. Period. End of sentence. Hard stop.
You have to take action against actions. You can't take actions against ideology. Because
Well-
then who gets to define what the ideology is? Who gets to define that this ideology is as soon as you cross that line, as soon as you say ideology can be physically and violently attacked, then all that has to happen is somebody just gets
The
to move
fascists will
that
tell
line.
you. The fascists will tell you themselves. So you watch for that. They will tell you themselves.
No.
Mhm, they do.
They will be
They
told.
do.
The people will be told. The media will tell the people those are fascists.
No,
That
well,
happens
no.
already.
You
That
have
happens
to look
already. I'm called
at
a
what they
fascist. I'm
produce.
called a Nazi. It doesn't matter. Like you said, perception is
Mhm.
reality. So the media gets to create that perception, and then people take action. People like these people who are trying to assassinate Trump. They're doing it because they believe he's a Nazi. They're attempting to assassinate him because they believe he's dangerous, because they've been told he's dangerous, not because he's actually done dangerous things. He doesn't actually done these things, but they've been told he's going to do those things. I could be the target of that. The media could say people who believe this are Nazis, and now I'm a target because people like you believe that it's okay to take violent
So
action against ideology.
I think then we need some sort of a law that cracks down on dishonest media.
I think we need to start with actions require action. You don't get to take action against someone's ideology.
Well, I think lying
if their
to the
ideology
nation
leads-
on live TV is a pretty strong action. Don't you agree?
No.
No?
Not puni-
Well,
not,
then
not,
where's
not,
your
not,
case?
not punishable. Again, that's ideology, but not punishable. Again, I'm talking like punishable by death.
Well, I'm not suggesting that a media organization or a reporter should be put to death for telling a lie on national TV, but I do think
But the
in a
other
case
side
where
does.
they do, when someone does, they need to be sanctioned, and if that means pulling the plug on an entire media organization because it has a history and pattern of lying to the American people, I think that needs to be done. Revoke their license.
Well, who decides who's lying? Because I don't know if you're aware of this, Marshall. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I'm not making assumptions, but the CIA has been in bed with the media industrial complex for decades. They've come out and admitted to this themselves quite a while ago. You've heard of Project Mockingbird? It was exactly what that was about, and if anyone thinks that is no longer going on, then they're seriously deceived.
Right. That's why we have to have an independent judiciary that can rule on this sort of thing and then again pull the plug. And we actually do have a system. The problem is the laws are absolutely weak and vague, and they're not being enforced, even if they do exist. I don't know. But there's certainly no enforcement. Right now, anybody can hop on primetime television and run their mouth and say whatever they want. And the American public does not have the ability to discern truth from fiction or to pick out logical fallacies. They simply go with the flow, and then you get what we have here today. So we need to, address that problem through education and through ethics in media. If you're going to be on primetime news reporting, it needs to be just the facts. Otherwise, if you want to editorialize or do opinion, it needs to be labeled as such, and it probably should not be in primetime hours or something like that. It needs to be restricted.
Even editorial and opinions, I think, should be subject to libel. I don't know that they currently are. I don't know. Are they currently subject to libel?
Yeah, theoretically.
I know that the news is, like, a news organization making a report is subject. If they get the information wrong, they can be subject for libel. They can be sued. But as a person stating an opinion, does that carry the same responsibility currently?
Right.
Like, if somebody says my opinion of this is this person, and if it's false, is that actionable? Can that be sued as libel?
Right. One of the problems that we run into is that the public can't discern fact from opinion or conjecture, because primetime news is absolutely packed with opinion and conjecture. So there is still some quality, hard, just the facts reporting that's taking place. But as soon as that's done, immediately the pundits jump on it and they put all the spin, whether it's right, left, or whatever. And I think people are in tune with that spin. They're looking for the spin. You give them a fact and they don't know what to do with the fact until someone spins it for them. And that's,
so do you think that maybe the answer, so maybe if we're actually looking at results, you think that maybe the answer is to maybe put down some regulations on news stations, to where if this, like these are there, you can be licensed as a news station and you can be licensed as an opinion station. And then news stations have certain rules, and then you have to turn over to the other station to get the opinion station.
Right, which is how it is in other nations such as Canada and I think the UK and other nations in Europe and such. There are, in fact, hard rules on the media and reporting.
Well, I do think that we've gotten away from factual media reporting. Almost all of the news is biased in one way or the other. And Marshall, I definitely agree with you. Republicans and Democrats are basically the same thing. I think that's why conservatives really do like Trump, because they feel that he is an outlier and different than the rest of them. But going back to your point, there's no actual factual news reporting in the U.S. As far as I can see it. Aside from maybe some outlier organizations that are not mainstream. I think there needs to be an element of that brought back in whatever form that is.
I think maybe the answer really is a separation. Like you simply cannot have opinion shows on a news station. That if you're going to like if FCC were to say you have a license, I don't want to say license, because the news station should be a news station, but free speech, we shouldn't be licensing free speech in that way. There's got to be a better way of saying that. But the idea that as a news station, you're not allowed to have opinion shows. You can have a different channel that people can tune to, but this channel is information only. This channel is opinion.
Yeah,
I think that would be a great
we could all
separation.
agree. Yeah, we could all agree on that.
Marshall, I have to say, and I know you got somewhere to be, so I don't want to keep you longer. I have to say it was very brave of you to come on the show today with me and Scott.
Sorry, it looked like we're ganging up on you.
It wasn't the intention.
It's no problem. I have the full armor of truth and reality, so I'm good.
You're being shielded from it. Oh, we appreciate you, Marshall. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
all right, well,
guys.
I'll tell you what, Marshall, we'll close it out. That way Mike can get off microphone and get over to the computer that runs the show over there. You're the only one there. Mike, thank you for joining us. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. From 2 different states across multiple cities. This has been United Opposition. Forgive me if I got a little bit fired up. Marshall, we're still friends, yes?
Oh, I don't know, brother. Yeah, of course we are.
All right, until next time, from wherever we come from, this has been United Opposition. God bless you guys. Have a great week.